what a shame for South Africa. This toxic relationship that South Africa have when it comes to weather and rain and Duckworth Lewis and ICC events, whether it's 1992 or 2022, it just goes on. They do pick up their first points, but it's half as many as they deserve to. They were nearly there. A 9-over game has become a 7-over game, perhaps a couple of more hits, and they would have just done the job against Zimbabwe. As it turns out, the points will be split between these two teams, and we will look back at it on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout. Anil Kumble is in studio with me. We'll hear from, I think, a pretty pleased Andy Flower, but let me first go to what I'm sure is a disappointed Faf du Plessis. Faf, what a shame. What is it with South Africa and these rules and this weather, especially in Australia?
Yeah, sometimes cricket is just not a fair game, is it? Like you just go, what is Mother Cricket doing to South Africa here? They did not put a foot wrong today. They were perfect in all departments. And then, like, I was watching those last few balls and I was thinking, surely not will the rain come now with them being so close.
Yeah, Andy Flower, I must ask you, if you're Zimbabwe, are you completely within your rights and you're entitled to delay the game as much as you can, mindful of the fact that you'll be able to steal a point here, or are you obligated to get the game on to force a result?
Just before I answer that, my heart's bleeding listening to Faf talk about the situation. Look, that was a tough situation for the umpires and also Zimbabwe in the field. Those conditions, they did look as if they were unsuitable for a World Cup game. You imagine India and Pakistan out there, I'm pretty certain that game would not have finished. So I think everyone tried their best to get it on. The umpires did a good job. I think Dave Houghton and the Zimbabwe team went about it in really good spirit, and I know Dave really well. And Dave has the greater sort of global game at heart, and would have encouraged his guys to get out there, not moan about the conditions and get on with the game. But it looked like it just got too bad in the end. As far as time wasting is concerned, no, I don't have any truck with that. You get on with it, and do the best you can in those conditions, and see where that takes you.
Would it be unfair to question Zimbabwe if they were? Did you firstly believe at all that they were dragging the game on a bit in a bid to perhaps see if weather could come to their rescue?
Yeah, I think in those kind of situations, you sort of tend to. It's a very thin line, because as a bowler, especially, we saw Sikandar Raza, run up and then stop and then come back. I mean, he's a spinner, so obviously it was wet out there, and then we saw one of the bowlers walk off as well with perhaps not too much damage and some injury. So yes, there are concerns when you have such conditions, but I don't think they sort of took their own sweet time to sort of say, okay, the rain's around, we'll get a point here. But I guess it was disappointing for South Africa, because all they needed was probably half an over to finish the game.
So it would be harsh to criticize Zimbabwe. You're saying, unfortunately, this was out of everybody's hands.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It was one of those days where, like Faf mentioned, Mother Cricket was not blessing South Africa.
Yeah. Would you? I mean, I don't know if this will have an impact, Faf, on South Africa. I mean, would you at all bring it up? Oh, we should have got 2 points here. But we've got just one. But they played the perfect game, like you said. Otherwise, they haven't put a foot wrong. Easy to just put this aside and say it's fine. We'll do the job against India and Pakistan. We thought all these other points are crucial for these three teams who are obviously front runners in this group. Is it easy to just ignore the fact that this is a point so unfortunately and cruelly robbed?
No, it is cruel. But what they'll be talking about now in that dressing room is that you can only focus on the things that is within your control. And unfortunately, as much as we sometimes would like to control the weather, you can't. So South Africa did everything in their power. And what they wanted to control today, they did beautifully well. So unfortunate for them, they deserve to get 2 points. But still, it is still within their own hands the way they play for the rest of the competition. They're a great conference. Quinny, we spoke about it before the game, how important he is for this World Cup. he was amazing tonight. So that should stand him in some really good stead moving forward.
Yeah, it was excellent from Quinton de Kock, single-handedly nearly chasing this down against the clock, against the weather. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. But in all fairness, Andy Flower, this is a point for Zimbabwe, and who knows? We're only talking about this being a point dropped for South Africa, but this is a point fortunately gifted to them, and it could very well get them going on a day where perhaps they did deserve to lose.
It is a point. It is a gift from the gods for them. I do actually feel for South Africa, not only because I was born there, but they did play excellent cricket today, and they were cruising the game and deserved the 2 points. But for Zimbabwe, yeah, it's a point on the board. I think one thing that they should take from this game as a lesson, and even though I didn't see it because I was away, I didn't see a lot of the first round games, but I've seen snippets of it, and it looks like their batting and running between the wickets is a good indicator of it. It is a little too on the too far on the frenetic side. I mean, there's one thing being proactive, there's one thing being energetic, and there's one thing about pushing in the field. But there seems to be a slight lack of composure and control in the way that they're going about their batting innings. And I think if they do want to add to their 1 point on that points column, they're going to have to find a way of thinking clearer, being more composed, keeping their balance even when they have a situation when they're trying to score quickly. That's an area that they have to address, I think, as a group, and I think they'll find that they'll be able to build better totals with more control if they can find that balance.
That's wonderfully summed up. Would you also add to that, Andy, that if they win the toss and there's weather around, bowl first, please?
Well, I mean, it was such an obvious thing to do. I would love to hear what their reasoning was for the decision that they made, but they lucked out and got a point anyway.
Yeah, they'll have to sharpen their skills, you think, as their next challenge is playing Pakistan at Perth. So good luck to Zimbabwe. But let's just move ahead in terms of what impact this could have for this group, Anil. Obviously, India, Pakistan, South Africa, with due respect to the other teams, are favourites. You've seen India, Pakistan now. You've seen a bit of South Africa. Do you sense that this result could very well come back into the scheme of things?
Yeah, it may, because for India, they obviously have the 2 points there, and then the other big game in this group is the South Africa game. Yeah. Even if South Africa now have to win. If they lose that game, then it becomes very, very difficult because of the odd point that they have, unless Pakistan lose to one of the others, slip up somewhere. So. Which is highly unlikely. So yes, it probably gives India the edge with this result to South Africa. Certainly gives India the edge.
All right. Now, Faf, you're going to be joining us straight for that India-South Africa game. Before that, South Africa go to Sydney now to play Bangladesh. It's a different sort of conditions that we expect there. We saw the New Zealand-Australia opening game. Now, did South Africa pick a team against Zimbabwe here, which is their best team of the tournament, with just the one spinner? Or do you necessarily think that things could change looking at conditions? Maybe we'll see Shamsi at the SCG against Bangladesh. What are you expecting from them going into the next one?
Yeah, I think you'd have to, obviously get to Sydney and have a look at the pitch, what it looks like. Generally, Sydney can spin a little bit. So South Africa has the resources. I think Shamsi and Keshav together are two fantastic spinners. But in South Africa, we'll also be thinking, playing against a subcontinent team. The pace is something you always want to try and throw against them because they don't used to face it as often as Australia, New Zealand, England, those teams. I'd probably assume that they would stick with the same team against who they are playing in their next fixture.
All right, we leave it there then. That's pretty much it. South Africa, unfortunate to not pick up the 2 points today, but it was pretty much out of everyone's hands, the end of it all. So big thank you to Anil Kumble. That's the end of games at Hobart. So hopefully we won't see any rain now. I think I started the day today saying weather's not played, spoiled sport or something.
I know. We spoke about weather even yesterday. So,
I mean, the ICC would be thrilled if they had to pick a game it wouldn't be India-Pakistan, they would say. With due respect, it would be this one.
Commentator's curse, huh?
Yeah.
Commentator's curse.
Yeah, we don't have those sorts of powers. Come on, don't be a superstitious man, Faf. I know South Africans have to be, but we don't have that sort of power.
Sure.
We'll leave it there. All right, Faf, this was a cracking debut from you. Unfortunately, not with the ideal result, but Andy Flower, it's been a pleasure getting your thoughts as well. Big thank you to you both. We're going to hear plenty more from you as this tournament rolls on. Still early days in the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2022. Join us tomorrow. It's a single game at Perth, Australia v Sri Lanka. With Sri Lanka into this game with more points than the hosts. It's a big game now for the defending champions. They cannot afford to slip up after that hammering against New Zealand. Join us just after 4 if you're in our part of the world for Build Up on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket Info T20 Time.